How often have I heard people say to me, I want to be a demonologist just like you? What do I have to do to become a demonologist? Well, the truth of the matter is this. I never became a demonologist. I was born a demonologist. Just as people are born to be saints, just as people are born to be architects, they are born to the life they were meant to be, working in. I did not wake up one day and say, I want to be a demonologist. I was born a demonologist. Yes, there are degrees that you can get in theology, psychology, theology, but to be a true demonologist, you have to be born to it. I knew when I was very young that I had a great interest in the supernatural and the preternatural. I didn't understand it, but I knew that I was drawn to the subject. When most boys would be interested in, say, baseball or football, yes, I had those interests too. I did play sports to a certain degree, but not fanatically as some young men do. My interests ran more to anthropology, history, geography, the supernatural, the preternatural, the unknown. I wasn't what you would call a good student. In fact, I was probably one of the bad students. Always in the back of the class, throwing spitballs, causing trouble. But I knew what trouble was about. I knew what the dark side of life was all about, even at an early age, because I was born into that life. My mother, God bless her soul, was an alcoholic, and I wouldn't trade her for any other mother. There were embarrassing times for me as a young boy, yes, I remember, and I didn't understand why my mother drank as she did. It's a disease, we know that today. My father, I was very proud of. He was a man amongst men, as they say. He was a tough, rough guy. He was a police officer. He was a boxer. He was in the Navy. He fought in World War I. I wanted to be just like my father. He never smoked and he never drank. I don't do any of those things. It's not because I don't want to do them. I just don't like to do them. My father always said to me, Ed, when you meet a girl, see how she treats her parents. And if you get serious about her and you want to marry her, well, see how she treats her parents and that's how she'll treat you. And that's the way you want to do it. I took his advice. I married a good woman. I seen how she treated her parents. Lorraine was very important, very instrumental in my life. She knew the opposite side of the coin. She came from a beautiful family life. Loving mother and father, sister and brother. She actually had to teach me the finer things of life that I didn't understand. The neighborhood I was brought up in was very rough and tough. If you weren't rough and tough, you didn't survive. So, as I grew older, I understood already at 18 and 19 years old what haunting phenomena was like because I had lived it. I lived in a haunted house as a boy from 5 until 12. Very frightening things occurred to me. But they were just as necessary as a good wife was to me. They were very necessary because I would have to understand later on when I started investigating haunted houses how frightened these people really were. How frightened you could be of just a small sound in a dark room in a home that was haunted. How frightened you could be to think that you had to go into that house alone and perhaps sleep there alone at night. I understood that because I had lived it. There's an old saying, you can read about climbing a mountain, but until you climb that mountain, you don't know what it's really like. So, how did I become a demonologist? I didn't set out to be one. Suddenly, after 25, 30 years, many different clergy, people of importance in the church, realized that I understood and knew about the supernatural and preternatural more than their even learned scholars. How many times did these people come to me and say, Mr. Warren, where did you get your knowledge from? I was born with the knowledge. And when I didn't have that knowledge, it would come to me through an angel or a spirit guide. What most people see and hear and read about Lorraine and myself in the area of demonology is the exciting, the public life. They read about us in newspapers, see us on television, hear us on radio, read our books, and they think, that's great. All I have to do is get involved with hauntings, ghosts, demons, devils, study it, investigate it, and I'll be just like Ed and Lorraine Warren. Well, God bless you. It took 50 years, 50 long years of our life dedicated to traveling many hundreds of thousands of miles, staying up many nights, exhausted. There's nothing more exhausting than traveling and working on investigations in strange places. Oh, it's exciting, to say the least. But as you get older, each day you get a little more tired. And then one day you wake up and you're 70 years old. And you realize that it's coming near the end of the road. So with all this knowledge that you have acquired, that you have been born with, what will happen to it? Well, people don't necessarily have to be demonologists to help others who are affected in some way by evil. You can be a psychic researcher, a Christian psychic researcher that will help people of all religions. The most important thing to remember about demonology is that there is one God. We may call that God by many different names, and we may worship him in many different religions, but there is only one God. And no matter how we pray or what religious beliefs we have, as long as they are founded and based on a solid foundation of love of that God and love of your fellow man, it's a good religion. I would not hesitate to be involved with a Muslim domo, a Shinto priest, a Baptist minister, evangelical minister, clergy of all faiths, rabbis. People say, rabbis? Rabbis don't believe in devils and demons. Well, the greatest exorcist that ever walked the earth was a rabbi. You remember his name? Jesus. And there are rabbis today that do exorcise evil spirits from people. Now, they do not do it the same way as a Catholic priest, but they are just as effective because they are calling on that same God that a Catholic priest calls on. I have to smile sometimes when people say to me after 6 months of classes, they are going to be demonologists. Well, it's best when I just look at them and encourage them. Because maybe they too were born to be demonologists. I don't know that. Only time will tell. But the true demonologist knows. He knows and she knows what inspires them, what drives them on. Now keep in mind that being a demonologist is not an easy life. Not as easy as some people think. You are loved and you are damned. You are praised and you are insulted. All depends on the opinion of the people that listen to you and that know you. There will be many who will try to strike you down, who will try to make little of you, who will insult you, who will lie about you. But being a demonologist is not a subject that all people accept. They have their opinions, and we must respect those opinions. But there is a saying that you should turn the other cheek. I've never done that. I will never turn the other cheek. If someone slaps me, I will slap them back. If someone kicks me, I'll kick them twice. So, if you want to get in with the tough guys, you better be just as tough as they are. Because they will not hesitate for one moment to bring you down. When they fight dirty, you better fight dirty. Sometimes we have to do something wrong so that good comes from it. What do I mean by that? I mean exactly that. I mean that sometimes things that may seem wrong are not really wrong. And that's not a cop-out. For instance, let's take the commandments. Thou shalt not steal. It's a sin to steal. But if a man sees his family starving, and there's a rich man not far away, and he's having a picnic, and they're eating so much that they're throwing the food away, if that poor man goes over and steals a loaf of bread or a hunk of meat, do you consider that stealing? Do Do you consider that bad? Do you consider that breaking the commandments? No. Of course you wouldn't. Then what about thou shalt not kill? More wars have been fought in the name of God. In fact, every war. Yet, the commandments say thou shalt not kill. When an enemy soldier fires at you, you have to fire back or you'll be killed. Let's say that you're standing in a park one day. You know that there is a maniac loose, a sadistic maniac who has raped and murdered many women. So you hear a scream. You run to where that scream is, and you see a man about to plunge a knife into a woman that he has just raped. You come up in back of him, you have a gun. You fire it right into his brain, and you kill him. Thou shalt not kill. But this was a case of preservation, of trying to save someone. So now where did you draw the line? Is it wrong to kill? Is it right to kill? Sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't, depending on the circumstances. This is why I say when the demonic and evil spirits fight dirty, you have to do the very same thing. That old saying about the weak or the meek will inherit the earth, I don't believe that. I believe that you have to be strong in mind and physically strong in order to be in charge of anything, to conquer anything. I don't believe that the weak or the meek are ever going to inherit anything. It's not the kind of a world that we live in. You better know that, especially in the area of demonology. Devils and demons and evil spirits. They know the game. They'll try every dirty trick in the book to get back at you. And sometimes you'll say to yourself, why am I doing this? I don't need it. I myself could have been an artist. I still am. I could have made a comfortable living. I didn't have to go around and look for trouble, because that's what a demonologist does. He or she looks for trouble. They look for the culprits of an inhuman nature, the devils and demons that we speak of and evil spirits that are causing trouble for others. We're like a supernatural police department. We have to bring the culprits to the church. We have to bring the culprits to the exorcist. Why does God allow devils and demons to possess people? Well, to begin with, he never did allow it. You did. You were the one that opened up the door to that possession, to that infestation. But he does allow it to a certain extent to show that God is more powerful than any devil or demon or evil. Because when the exorcism works, that's exactly what God is saying. I have just proved I am more powerful than any evil spirits. So when you go to bed at night, you thank God for everything he has ever given you. You thank God for everything he will ever give you. And you ask him to protect your loved ones and yourself from that evil which you are fighting. Because only God, the angels, the saints, can protect us from that evil. No human being can go up against a devil or a demon alone. You need St. Michael the Archangel. You need Jesus Christ. You need the saints and the martyrs. You need all that is holy to protect you and bring you to a victory over any evil spirit. Never be foolish enough to think that you have powers that can conquer evil. You will have the knowledge, but the power comes from the divine. Never, ever forget that. So look back at your lives and see where it was that you decided to become a demonologist. Was it when you were very young that you had the same interests as I did? Then as you became older, you learned many lessons of life which made you humble enough and grateful enough to try and help others. Look back at the steps in your life. What guided you here tonight? What is it that you want out of this work? Is it glory? Do you want to be famous? Do you want to be rich? If these are your goals, they are the wrong ones. I understand that people do need to live. I understand that there will be many compensations that you will receive for being in this work. I also understand that there will be many people who cannot in any way pay you for your services. When these people come to you, help them. There will be others that will compensate for them. That's the way God works. You don't have to charge people for what you do. If you have to travel distances and you know that they can afford to pay you for that, the expenses, ask them for them expenses. You're not a millionaire. Money doesn't fall out of heaven for you. If they wish to donate something towards your work, take it gladly, because you're going to need it. There will be people who will try to reprimand you for taking those expenses and taking that compensation. That's because they're not in this work. That's because they get a paycheck every week. That's because they have a grant, or they're getting collections that people support them with. So don't become discouraged. Just remember one thing. Jesus said it. The Bible teaches it. I'm sure we all believe it. And that settles it.